Freedom of speech and freedom of religion are in danger in Canada right now. If you believe that Canada should have freedom of speech and freedom of religion, then check out this video to find out what has been going on. And if you want to make a difference, wait until the end of the video and I'll give you some ways that you can actually make a difference in our country right now.
Speaker, just another example of Liberals trying to silence and censor people they don't agree with. This is exactly why we cannot let what they're trying to sneak in the back door on C9 pass. This is a Liberal government that has taken every opportunity to put religious freedom and freedom of expression in its crosshairs. This is a Liberal government that freezes the bank accounts of its...
Ain't that the truth? Keep watching to see what he's actually talking about. This is crazy.
Because we believe it is critical that the Justice Committee gives Bill C9 the proper scrutiny, given the alarming details we've learned in the last few days that the Liberal government has reached a secret deal with the Bloc Québécois to have a full-out assault on the religious freedoms of Canadians. There was a story in the National Post on the weekend revealing that the Bloc Québécois' desire to remove fundamental safeguards for religious freedom from the criminal code is going to be supported by the Liberals in exchange for Bloc Québécois support on Bill C9. Now, in the days since this, Conservatives have tried to actually do proper legislative scrutiny on Bill C9. The Liberals dared to accuse the Conservatives of filibustering and obstructing, but I want to explain two critical things that have just happened. I realize you are now Madam Speaker. You have transformed before my eyes now, so thank you for that. The interesting thing here is that we had resources to do our committee's work on Tuesday from 3:30 p.m. when the Justice Committee meeting started until midnight. Conservative members were prepared to go line by line, clause by clause through Bill C9. And then the Liberals adjourned the meeting at 5:30 after we had only agreed on and adopted one clause as a committee. Yesterday in question period, one of my colleagues, who is a Liberal member on the Justice Committee, got up and demanded that we continue our work Thursday. That's today, Madam Speaker. And then this morning, I look at my email and I see that the Liberal committee chair has canceled today's committee meeting. The clause-by-clause review of Bill C9, which the Liberal government said Conservatives were obstructing, has been obstructed by the Liberals. Now, I do not ever make the mistake of accusing the Liberals of competence, but they are filibustering themselves. They are obstructing their own agenda. So the Conservatives are ready to do the work. Now, what I suspect may have happened is the Liberal government has been receiving the similar calls and emails to the ones that have been coming into my office from Canadians who are very alarmed by this amendment and in general by what C9 means for freedom of expression and for religious freedom. They are alarmed by this. I have received calls from members of the Jewish community, the Muslim community, the Christian community, Hindus, Sikhs, all of them saying that they do not trust that their religious freedoms will be preserved if the Liberal government proceeds with this secret deal it has with the Bloc Québécois to remove fundamental religious safeguards from the criminal code. Now, the Liberal government could clear this up very easily. They could come out and say that we are backing away from this. We are no longer proceeding with our plans to take aim at religious freedom. In fact, I would love to hear what my Liberal colleagues were there say it. In fact, I hear a great deal of chatter from my Liberal colleagues now. If one of them could just get up and say that they will not be proceeding with these assaults on religious expression and freedom of religion, that would make this country a better place. But we need to do the proper work as a committee. We need to be able to speak to the Canadians affected by this, the Canadians who are alarmed by this. We need to be able to speak directly to the groups that have been excluded from the C9 study because of this Liberal government's desire to obstruct and filibuster its own agenda. So the reason I'm rising on this motion is because we need to proceed with a proper study. We need to go into all of these communities in Canada, speak directly to those who are so often excluded from the process. I'm thinking specifically of people in ethnic communities that don't necessarily consume mainstream media and are likely better for it. I'm speaking, of course, of people in remote communities for whom accessing committee proceeding in Ottawa is a challenge. In doing this, we will be able to have a full accounting of exactly what Pandora's box the Liberal government is unleashing on Canadians with its proposed Bill C-9 and the amendments removing religious safeguards. Now, there are going to be, I suspect, some interventions from my Liberal colleagues who will say, no, we are not talking about, in general, freedom of religion. We're just talking about people that conceal hateful, criminal, violent rhetoric in religious language. Well, I have some news for those members. That is already illegal. There is no protection in the criminal code for people who incite genocide. There is no protection in the criminal code for people who threaten violence. There is no protection in the criminal code for people who incite hatred. These religious defenses in the criminal code only exist for two particular charges: the willful promotion of hatred.
I'm going to interrupt the honourable member. Can we order while a member is making a speech? There's no conversations going on. The honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South.
Yeah.
Did she really say that?
She said it.
Yeah, you did.
I am not going to intervene on this. Order. Can we let the honourable member for Elgin St. Thomas, London South, conclude his speech? The honourable member.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Just another example of Liberals trying to silence and censor people they don't agree with. This is exactly why we cannot let what they're trying to sneak in the back door on C-9 pass. This is a Liberal government that has taken every opportunity to put religious freedom and freedom of expression in its crosshairs. This is a Liberal government that freezes the bank accounts of its protesters. This is a Liberal government that, under the guise of protecting children, tries to expand the Canadian Human Rights Act to block what Canadian people can say on the internet. So absolutely, I will take no lectures from any member opposite when we are trying to protect the freedoms of Canadians of all faiths. And incidentally, what I will point out to is the fact that we cannot view any of this in isolation. These amendments to Bill C-9 must also be understood alongside the fact that the Liberal government is changing the definition of hate in Bill C-9. And in doing so, as civil liberties experts, as advocates from the political left and the political right have said, they are putting a murky definition that will make it easier to prosecute people for their thoughts and their beliefs, and in particular, for their religious expression. And if you want to know where the Liberals think about this, I would refer you to what the former Liberal Justice Committee chair said, which is that religious scriptures, and he mentioned 3 entire books of the Bible and Torah, are hateful at times. And he said that it should be criminal to quote certain scriptures. Wow. Now, we have a pluralistic country. There are people in the House of Commons and people in the Liberal Party that have a range of views. It is possible that the committee chair was out of line and not speaking for the Liberal government. And I will say that I'm very grateful that just a couple of weeks after the member who was chairing the Justice Committee said that people should be criminally prosecuted for quoting scripture, he was removed from his post. The Liberals removed him as the Justice Committee chair. Oh wait, it was to promote him. He's now the Minister of Canadian Identity. The Minister of Canadian Identity said prosecutors should be able to, I'm going to use his words, quote, press charges, unquote, against people who quote scriptures that he finds offensive, that the Liberal government finds offensive. So this is something where the Liberal government demands Conservatives go along with its agenda, and when we say, all right, let's review line by line exactly what you are trying to do, they cancel the meeting. So we do not know when the Liberal government will decide to get around to this. Perhaps they're dealing with some tumult within their own ranks on how to deal with this. I have had a number of conversations with all members of this House, and I realize there are people representing a variety of faith backgrounds who are members of Parliament for different parties. Perhaps some Liberals who are themselves members of religious communities or represent people who are starting to wonder why the Minister of Justice and the Prime Minister are trying to remove protections to express religious belief from the criminal code, opening faith leaders, individual people of faith, to criminal prosecution if their religious beliefs do not conform to the Liberal government's. We need to be able to do real work as legislators. The Justice Committee must be able to do real work on Bill C-9. And if the Liberals could stop obstructing their own agenda and stand by or reject this amendment, but do it publicly and clearly, and they can do it right now. Any member there can get up in questions and comments and say, you know what? We've listened to Canadians. We are backing away from this, and I invite them to do it at this very...
And if you want to make a difference, you can check out this website. I encourage you to call all of the Liberal parties and tell them exactly how you feel about this bill and the amendments. And of course, most of all, pray.